Hey guys, it has certainly been a while, but welcome back to the magnificent world of RLCraft. In this video, I'm going to explain a lot of things that can help you become even stronger in this chaotic world. From weapons, to dragons, to summoning, to food, to baubles, let's get right into explaining some fun, overpowered tips for this insane Minecraft mod pack. Part 2. First, I want to describe a really cool aspect of RLCraft that on its own could potentially change the way any player plays this mod pack. That makes you incredibly powerful. Have you noticed those weird drops around the world that don't fit into your inventory well and seem to be out of place? Well, there is actually a really cool thing that you can do with those items. You can make powerful modded weapons that are much more powerful offensively than the regular weapons that you know of. If you don't want to bother with making these interesting modded weapons though, you can just toss those items into a crafting table and get miscellaneous items from them. But for those interested in becoming even stronger, the process involves equipment forges. You know those strange tables that don't tell you how to use them at all? Yeah, those tables suck. But the items you forge with them do not suck. Here's how you make items with the equipment forge. First, upgrade to a master equipment forge. The low tier ones are kind of pointless if you want to be as OP as possible. But the tier 1 and 2 equipment forges still work for the lesser tier drops. Anyways, for the strongest tier 3 forge, you start with a crafting table. Combine that crafting table with a wooden axe, then combine that equipment forge with a block of iron, and then combine that equipment forge with a block of diamond. You will need 18 in building sadly for max tier, but it is worth it in the long run for an experienced character. See this strange item? It dropped from a monster I killed. Now what? There are only two things you need to look at on these weird items to determine if they are worth keeping or scrapping. The slot type and the level. If the level is anything under max, or in most cases 3 out of 3, then the item you would make with it wouldn't be top tier, so you can scrap it. But if it is tier 3, then that is awesome and you should save that. Tier 1 and 2 items still make useful tools, but we only want the best. There are 6 different types of items for equipment forging: base, head, pommel, axe, blade, or pike. To build a weapon, you will need to start with placing a base in the equipment forge. This will then open up 2 more slots, a slot for the head and a slot for a pommel, if the option is available. At the bottom of each item, it will tell you whether it adds a slot or not. If not, then that is fine, but if it does add a slot, then you can add more effects on the weapon you are making. After adding a base, a head, and an optional pommel, you then build off the head to either have an axe, a double-edged axe, a blade, or a pike. The stats of the weapon may seem crazy, but believe it or not, the effects actually do apply to the weapon even after forging the parts together. The completed weapon will not tell you the effects are there, but they are. In this weapon's case, it used an item that applies a 5-second smite effect, which is a debuff that does damage over time to undead targets, a 2-second paralysis effect, and deals solid damage, all without any enchantments on the item. What is better is that you can actually put enchantments on the item with enchanted books, and the weapon has infinite durability, so it will never break. Unbreakable and mending are completely useless on it. You can't put the item in the enchantment table though, so you're going to have to add the books on the item manually. You can get enchanted books easily by placing enchanted items and a plain book into a disenchantment table though. But that requires 20 in magic, so keep that in mind. These weapons have insane base damage and can have incredibly strong effects, such as making the user invisible and firing firebolts with right click, and you can still put enchantments like sharpness and education 3 on the weapons. Yeah, I know the weapons look pretty strange, but I mean, come on, it's not that bad. These weapons also have cool effects, such as being able to mine multiple types of blocks with ease. A simple example is combining an iron hilt, an iron rod, and an iron paxel into our new iron thing. All you need for this is a level 1 equipment forge, which requires 6 in building, 6 sticks, 5 iron ingots, and an iron axe, iron shovel, and iron pickaxe. Combine the 3 items into an equipment forge, and now you have a strong pickaxe slash axe slash shovel slash hoe that shreds through obsidian, mines diamond ore, and mines every other block in the game relatively fast, and it has infinite durability. Here are 2 fun examples of strong weapons made by the forge as well. The first weapon actually shoots out a stream of standard hitting firebolts, and you can do this as long as you want. The weapon also applies fear on any enemy hit with the weapon and deals 8 base damage, which is higher than Dragonbone Sabers. The weapon also attacks insanely fast. And yes, you can still enchant it with any enchantments that you want. I haven't enchanted this one though, because my main weapon of choice now, sorry Saber, is this monstrosity. This weapon consists of a Spectral Tendril, level 3 for the base. This item makes the weapon apply a Decay 3 effect for 5 seconds with every hit, which slows enemies by 20% and does damage over time with effects similar to Wither. A Venturaptor skull at level 3, which applies a weakness effect to the hit target for 4 seconds, so the target does decreased damage, and ×2 clink sights at level 3. These increase the damage of the weapon by 5 each. What is better is that I passively got these items just by randomly exploring different biomes, so make sure to pick them up as you go when you find them. You'll thank yourself later for doing it. You mine sand, dirt, and gravel practically faster than the mod vein miner could, do incredible damage with incredible attack speed, and it's a one-handed weapon so you can still wield a shield or secondary weapon in your other hand. I got as many max enchantments on it as possible, sadly no supreme sharpness though, I just can't seem to get lucky and find that enchantment. I run dual wield now, with my old weapon as a looting weapon, and my new weapon as a farming XP all-around weapon. Next, I will tone it down a bit to explain a wonderful tip that I wish I'd known at the start of my own adventure. Sleep at night. JK, that's not the tip, but you should do it. The real tip though is you can actually summon, tame, and mate a lot of the modded animals in the world. If I had known this, I may not have brutally murdered everything in sight. We will start off with summoning the beasts. To summon a minion, all you need is a summoning staff which requires 8 in magic via the skills menu and focus. You make a summoning staff with an ender pearl that drops commonly from mobs such as darklings and Raymons, a bone, and a gold ingot. Reaching 8 in magic while passively mining for coal and other ores or just butchering the wildlife can be obtained very early, so summoning can be one of the first things you go for at the start of your adventure to give yourself more of a fighting chance. Your character starts with 10 focus, and summoning minions costs a certain amount of focus depending on how strong the minion is. There are 5 different staffs that you can use. I usually just use a savage summoning staff for the double minions. The other staffs can be used as well, but sometimes don't work properly, like the blood staff often bugging your HP when you use it. To summon more minions, either select the minion in your bestiary manually. You access your bestiary either by pressing B or by accessing it via your inventory at the top, or you can group summon multiple of your selected minions by holding down right click on your staff for longer. This can be particularly fun when using the savage summoning staff for double minions. 10 minions for holding down right click for a few seconds is pretty strong for a lot of scenarios, especially for early game mob tower clearing. Most minions can be useful, but some are certainly stronger than others, and all you need in order to summon these minions is add them to your bestiary by standing close to them in the open world. You can use a soul gazer as well to get the monsters in your bestiary, but the game almost always does this for you automatically. In case it doesn't for some reason though, you make the soul gazer with 4 gold, 4 bone, and a diamond in the middle. Go up to a beast and right click it with the soul gazer in hand to add its knowledge to your bestiary. I have noticed that the smaller summons, such as the Darkling and the Raymond, tend to be difficult for mobs in the game to target, so they can get a lot of damage in at times, but I still tend to lean towards more utility or hard-hitting summons when I use them. I usually summon Raymonds when I'm in smaller areas, such as strip mines, Aegises when I'm out in the open because I am basic, and when I'm in the water, I summon Avia because it will paralyze those pesky water enemies so I can just keep swimming. Like Dory. Pretty much all summons can be useful though, besides maybe kobolds. Fun fact, wild kobolds will only attack you if you're under half health. The last introductory summoning tips I will give you before moving on is you can combine a lot of summoned minions by summoning the designated ones close to each other. This is not too particularly useful in quick combat situations, but it can be fun at times. One such example is combining a Djinn and a Geonat to make a Banshee. The Banshee summon can fly through walls and attack enemies, so that is pretty cool. You can just hide and summon a Banshee over and over again to kill the enemies around you. Summoning is tough to get used to, but if you master it, you will be able to survive a lot more situations even without gear. The most overpowered aspect of summoning in my opinion though, is setting up a permanent summon station around your base so you have a couple permanent guardians. This allows you safer progression in the game, and your base will actually feel safe from random doomsday events and the like. To set up a permanent summon, you will need to make a summoning pedestal with a soul stone, which is made with 4 diamonds, 4 ender pearls, and a soul gazer. You will also need a soul gazer itself, which I described how to make earlier, 3 more diamonds, and 4 gold ingots. It is a bit pricey, but a permanent summon pedestal can be incredibly overpowered, and you can mine it and take it with you on the go if you so choose. To power the summoning pedestal, you need to place redstone in this box. You may be able to place other fuel, but I know redstone works, so I just use that. Your minions will roam around the portal, and when they get killed, new ones will spawn in their place until the fuel in the portal is depleted. This fuel lasts a very long time though. Not only this, but you can bring this in to fight tier 4 and 5 dragons and other boss enemies in layers. You can select whatever minion you want for the permanent summon by merely selecting the designated box on the left. This mechanic is not quite as useful against dragons in the open world though, since they will usually be flying around high up. You can just take the fight to those guys usually though if you have a flying mount. If you do not have a flying mount though, then do not fear, because taming a roc, Ryko, or other avian birds, or a hippogriff is rather straightforward. Rocks and Rykos are flying mounts that can be easily tamed with avian treats, which are made with 5 cooked meat and 2 bones. And Hippoglyphes are stronger flying mounts that can be tamed by dropping rabbit's feet near one over and over until it crouches down to show it is tamed. These flying horses can be found in most green areas or mountains, except for Rykos that are normally found near the ocean. For rocks and Rykos, just right-click to ride them after it is tamed with a saddle in your hand. And if you want to keep it as a permanent pet, make sure to bind it to your character with a soul stone, which I explained how to make earlier. For Hippoglyphs though, you need to crouch and right-click the Hippoglyph to access its inventory first, where you can then equip armor, a chest for storage, and a saddle that requires 8 and agility to use. While flying the Hippoglyph mount, place space to rise and X to fall, and press crouch to dismount. Disclaimer, your controls may be different if you have customized your keybinds. For rocks and Rykos, the controls are much simpler. Just WASD basically, and rise with space. All of these mounts are common, fast, and super useful, but Hippoglyphs have more HP. An even stronger flying mount is a dragon though, but acquiring one of those is significantly harder. I will still briefly explain it though, because it's super cool. Plus, if you die while fighting a dragon in a den, or really if you die to anything anywhere, you can return to exactly where you died instantly by using a grave scroll, which is made from a single paper, rotten flesh, and an ender pearl. Just remember that if you die in, let's say, the void, using a grave scroll will teleport you to the void, so use with caution. Anyways, to tame a dragon, you need to find a tier 4 or 5 dragon den, and in these dens, there's a chance for an egg to spawn in the middle of it. For fire dragons, the egg will be red, brown, green, or black, and for ice dragons, the egg will be blue, light blue, gray, or white. After stealing the eggs like a robber, because you max out your sneaking and sneaking speed, because why not? Or by defeating the dragon and claiming your prize, you'll set the egg on fire. Unless it's an ice dragon egg, then you won't do that. For a fire dragon egg though, place it on top of a block of netherrack and light the netherrack on fire with flint and steel. After 3 in-game days, the egg will hatch with a tamed baby dragon. Feed the baby dragon's treats to make it grow big and strong. For ice dragons, place the egg in a 1x1 and fill that 1x1 with the egg in it with water. After a short amount of time, the egg will freeze the water into ice, and after 3 in-game days, the egg should hatch with a cute ice dragon. You grow the ice dragon the same way with dragon treats. Dragons are super cool, have a lot of health, breathe fire, and fly with the same controls as a hippogriff. But to be honest, I think dragons are more trouble than they're worth. Hippoglyphs work just as well as a means of flight transportation and are much easier to get. Similarly to summoning, but arguably more practical and useful for most situations, is having pets by taming enemies. You can tame beasts with beast treats that are made with 5 cooked meat and 2 bones. All you need to do to tame the beast is have the beast treat equipped in hand, and then right-click on the beast until it is satisfied. The game will say something like, "The beast seems to love you now," and the beast will then follow you around and fight for you. You can also tame some aquatic creatures with aquatic treats that are made with 5 cooked fish and 2 bone. You can have as many tamed creatures following you around as you want, but they will eventually die either in combat, to weather conditions, or even potentially getting stuck somewhere. So if you want to keep your tame beasts around forever, you will need to bind them to your bestiary's pet section with a soul stone. Right-click your tame buddy with a soul stone in hand. Now, if your pet dies, you can resummon it at any time, and you can change its aggression. I will now tell you about some of the animals you can tame with beast treats and explain some of the benefits of doing so. First, I will start with my personal favorite land mount for early game, Salamanders. While riding this mount, Salamanders allow you to avoid all fire damage, so they can be useful for fighting fire dragons, and they let you swim in lava, so they can be very useful while roaming the nether. You can use a salamander in the meantime until you make a dragon's eye. The mount ability on Salamanders is an AoE fire attack. Just press the mount ability to set all nearby enemies on fire. This ability is incredibly powerful for early game. You heal Salamanders with any cooked meat. Barghests. These can be mounted and will bite any enemies you attack. As well, this Barghest paralyze any enemies that it jumps on and can be healed with cooked meat. Dawans. These followers just slow enemies and are not particularly strong, but they look cool and sound like Jaguar. Pterodons. These can be mounted when tamed and inflict weakness on enemies, and they can be healed with cooked meat. Mogs. These mounts are very useful and strong. Press the mount ability, default bound to F, but can be changed in your controls while riding on a Mog to leap forward in an ability where the mount takes no fall damage when landing and all enemies below are slowed and take damage. Mogs can also be healed with cooked meat. Quill Beasts. They hit as hard as the strongest of beasts and can be healed with vegetables, so perhaps this creature is good for a vegetarian playthrough. if anyone still does those, that is. Wargs. These wolf-type mounts inflict paralysis on any enemy they land on after jumping. And lastly, the Chupacabra. If you set your pet Chupacabras, remember you make a beast your pet with beast treats and a soul stone, too aggressive, and make them defeat a farm animal such as a cow, it will be ready to make bebe. Do it for 2 pet Chupacabras and you can make endless passive Chupacabras that you can kill for food because you're merciless. With advanced looting, you can get a lot of meat from these bebes when they mature, and Chupacabra meat in the newest RLCraft patch gives you the leech effect, which makes it so that you get HP back when hitting enemies. Each hit on a mob heals you up to 2 heart containers, and this leech effect lasts 30 seconds. On the note of food though, let's move on to explaining battle burritos. Battle burritos are consumable craftable items that are like enchanted golden apples, but astronomically better and much easier to get. And we're not talking about better than a crapple. No, we are talking about better than an enchanted golden apple. A battle burrito is much better because it fully heals you instantly no matter how much HP you have, gives you 8 overshield hearts, strength 4, which makes you do 80% more physical damage to enemies, resistance 4, that makes you take 80% less damage from everything, including fall damage, and gives you insane health regeneration for 2 entire minutes. And the heat of the moment, 2 minutes still lasts an incredibly long time. With a battle burrito on, you can face like pretty much everything without a care in the world. In order to make these battle burritos, you need 1 cooked aspid meat, maca meat, yeti meat, artisaur meat, and pinky meat. There is a way to make all of these animals though. Farming time. I will start by explaining how to farm maca, yeti, and artisaur. On their own, these 3 food items are pretty useful as well. Cooked maca meat gives you 6 heart overshield for 20 seconds. Yeti meat gives you resistance 3 for 1 min that makes you take 60% less damage from all sources. And cooked artisaur meat gives you a small health regeneration buff that may or may not actually work. To mate and lure macas, yetis, or artisaurs into farms, you can use potatoes, beetroot, wheat, or carrots. Some of these are harder to acquire than others though, so I would recommend using wheat since it is very easy to get. Either way though, you only need 1 vegetable to make a farm, so mating these animals and making farms is incredibly easy. Macas can be found in most standard warm biomes, artisaurs can be found in most standard tree biomes, and yetis can be found in the colder biomes such as the spruce forest. The next one, the aspid, is a bit tricky because it only spawns in a few rarer biomes and it leaves a trail of potent poison as it moves around. But with a Bezoar you will be immune to the poison, and this bauble is fairly common to find when exploring mob towers. Without the bauble, you would just need to be very careful. You mate aspids with mushrooms, the brown and red ones being the most common. You find these mushrooms in typical low-lit areas. The way I farm these mushrooms is by finding pod soul. This is common in taiga biomes, and then I collect the stuff with a silk touch tool. I place the pod soul in an area where I want to grow the mushrooms, place the mushroom in the middle, and then I right-click the mushroom with bone meal in my hand that you get from bones. I then collect the mushrooms with a fortune tool for the most amount of mushrooms and rinse and repeat. Next is the most difficult meat to acquire, the pinky meat. This mob is found in nether biomes. I tried to set up a pinky farm on the roof of the nether by using an enchantment table glitch where you throw an ender pearl in between 2 blocks on top of an enchantment table, but RLCraft is very anti-farm, so I could not find a way to set one up. If you find a way to make a safe and efficient pinky farm, I would love to read it about it in the comments. I usually just go into the nether and gladiator these guys down with a looting sword, but that can be pretty dangerous. Another option I've used once though is waiting for pinkies to go through your portal and taming them. This option may be better for you if you do not have any gear. To tame these pinkies you will need demon treats. These treats are made with 5 netherwort and 2 bones. Netherwort farms are very easy to make. Just plant netherwort on soul sand in a non-lit area. Netherwort drops fairly often from belfs that are very common in the nether, but they will come through the nether portal along with pinkies so you can just kill them when they do. Needless to say, you should try to put your nether portal in a spot where you can safely fight the enemies away from your valuables, as stuff may be set on fire by the belfs. You can also find rare underground nether dungeons while mining in the lower levels towards bedrock, while looking for diamonds. And in those dungeons, nether enemies such as belfs can spawn. Because of the slight difficulty in finding netherwort though, the first option in killing the pinkies is potentially faster, but if you do have / can get netherwort, then tame away. Pinkies breed the exact same way as Chupacabras mate. Set both of the tamed mating pinkies to aggressive, and remember you make them your pet using soulstones, and punch a farm animal or 2. The pinkies need to hit the farm animal, and then the pinkies will make a tame bebe. You can make a large farm with them if you so choose, but it will take you a while if you choose to do so. I myself have not made a pinky farm yet. Putting all these farms in the same place is a bit difficult, but if you're dedicated enough, I'm sure you could do it. These mobs are just like the other farm animals and do not despawn, so the farms can be fully functional. But moving on, here comes the fun part. The Battle Burrito is created by combining all 5 of these cooked food items, aka the meat of the animals. Now that you have a stable supply of everything, you're pretty much already overpowered if you eat these burritos in combat. To make these burritos even more useful though, you can wear a Gluttony Pendant. This amulet is relatively difficult to make on its own, so it isn't a necessity early on, but it certainly should be a goal for experienced characters. This pendant is made with a sinful pendant, which drops occasionally in dungeons, a golden apple, and a cake. Minecraft veterans already know how to make a cake and a golden apple, but if you have to make a sinful pendant on its own, you will be presented with a bit of a problem. Spectral Silt can be pretty hard to get. It is a rare drop in dungeons and an even rarer drop from mob towers or boss enemies, so how do you get it? Well, you can make this Spectral Silt by combining a disintegration tablet, which is made with 4 nether quillards, which can be easily obtained by killing DNFs while mining or while mining in the nether area, 4 blaze powder that can be made with blaze rods that drop commonly from lava elementals, and a single redstone dust with a diamond block. Remember, diamonds are really easy to get if you have a diamonds everywhere 3 pickaxe, because you will have a chance to get diamonds from ores such as coal, redstone, or lapis. Also, having a Fortune 3 pickaxe will get you more diamonds from diamond ore that you find. If diamonds are not your thing, you can combine the disintegration tablet with an emerald block instead. You can also combine the disintegration tablet with a few other baubles or miscellaneous stuff that you may find in mob towers that you don't know what to do with. Making Spectral Silt takes a bit of a grind, but this pendant makes you eat all food and drink water out of canteens practically instantly, so that is very convenient when moving around and kiting enemies, especially in dungeons. I would use a Gluttony Pendant above ground, and a Stone of the Sea while in areas with water. I already covered the Stone of the Sea in my previous RLCraft video in depth, but the short version of it is it's a great bauble that makes you able to move really fast through water, gives you a respiration buff, and makes you float. Speaking of the baubles though, I will now mention a few ones that I haven't talked about yet. The first one being the Polarized Stone. Right click this bubble while it is in your main hand to turn it on. You can then keep the bubble in your inventory and then all drops will be magnetized to you, so all you need to do is crouch every once in a while to pick stuff up. Sometimes having a large pile of junk following you around is a bit lame though, so if you don't want to pick up everything, then you can turn off the magnet effect. But you should certainly make use of the bobble's second effect, the Repel Effect. This effect actually blocks arrows that skeletons shoot at you, and it sometimes works on other projectiles, such as clink throwing stars. This is an incredibly strong power, but turning this power on is a bit tricky to figure out. In your menu's control section, take a look at your toggle magnet keybind and your aux key keybind. You can only use these keybinds when the bauble is equipped, but you can still turn on the magnet effect with right click if you do not want to equip it. If you want to toggle the Repel Effect on, you need to press and hold your aux key keybind, in my case numpad 1, and then press your magnet keybind, in my case it is bound to numpad 2. Remember, this is just my own example. The default keybinds are different, and you can change them in your control menu by pressing escape, going to options, and clicking on the controls while in game. This bauble is incredibly powerful and makes skeletons an actual joke, which is very useful because skeletons are top tier snipers in RLCraft and seem to only hit the vitals. I would still recommend getting the perk Undershirt in your defense tab in your skill tree though, so you are immune to one-shots. All the skill requires is 6 skill points in defense. Anyways, this bauble is made with 4 blocks of iron, a redstone block, and 4 glowing ingots, which require 4 blaze powder, 4 glowstone dust, and a silver ingot, which is only about as rare as finding gold while mining. This bauble is amazing, and I highly recommend it when taking on mob towers early on. Remember to try to take an Education 3 enchanted weapon with you for the loads of extra XP when exploring mob towers. The next bauble I will explain is an incredibly strong bauble, a necessity to have on your character at all times once you find one. This bauble is very rarely found in mob tower chests and dungeon chests, and sadly it cannot be made, but once you find one, you will be sitting very pretty. With this bauble, lethal damage will destroy heart containers instead, so the game will become more like standard Minecraft. When you die, when all your hearts run out, instead of just having full hearts and dying, this bauble is incredibly useful. The Broken Heart bauble. Another bauble you may want to use if you use a bow is the Heavy Arrow Quiver. Right click this bauble to store up to 9 extra stacks of arrows. You can either equip this bauble to use arrows or keep this bauble in your inventory for some extra arrow storage should you need them later. That's usually what I do. This bauble is great if you use a strafe bow plus rapid fire bow, because strafe does not work with infinity. The other 2 baubles I want to explain to make though are endgame baubles that are expensive to make, but they are very strong, so I thought I should explain them just in case you don't know about them. The baubles are the Ankh Charm and the Shield of Honor. The Ankh Charm makes you immune to all negative status effects, except for perhaps a few status effects that, as far as I know, only the player can use. You will only need to worry about status effects if your OP weapon is disarmed and equipped by the enemy, in other words, which is probably the most frustrating thing in the game, to be honest. This charm is made by combining very strong baubles together. Most of these baubles can only be found by looting difficult dungeons or are found as rare drops from mob towers or bosses. A mixed color dragon scale even requires you to defeat the ender dragon. This bauble does free up bauble slots for other things since the bauble covers all immunity grounds, but it is very expensive to make, so it is an end game goal for sure. The second bauble, the Shield of Honor, is difficult to make because it requires a dragon egg. This can only be obtained by defeating the ender dragon or by defeating a tier 4 or 5 dragon that was guarding an egg in a dragon lair, which is very tough without already being relatively equipped for combat. The other ingredients are easier to get though. Wood is wood and glowing gems are made out of glowing ingots, glowing ingot powder that is made from glowing ingots, and a diamond block. The Shield of Honor is hard to get because of the dragon egg, but the shield decreases all incoming damage by 20% by giving a permanent resistance 1 buff. It is a strong item to have, and a personal bauble choice of mine. The next thing I'm going to explain has to do with reforging items for better quality. If you have played RLCraft for a while, you probably have noticed how some baubles, armor, and weapons suck more than others. Well, there is a way to fix that by using reforging stations. For weapons and armor, you make this version of a reforging station. 2 stone slabs, an anvil, 2 obsidian, and a crafting table is all you need. Place the item you want to change the quality for inside the reforging table and place the designated material into it for a reforge. For diamond armor, for example, you use diamonds, and for dragon armor, you use the color designated dragon scale. You can reforge weapons, baubles, and armor in a limited amount of times, and it is extremely worth it to do so for the higher grade. Doing this on your armor and baubles is the most important, since defense is game-changing in RLCraft. Masterful quality on all your armor, for example, gives you cool stats depending on which piece of armor you have the masterful on as well. A single example of this beneficial stats is on boots. It increases your step height, so you no longer need to jump over 1 blocks. It increases your speed by 10%, so you're more speedy, and it also increases your defenses a bit, so you're more tanky. For baubles, instead of just accepting that your dragon's eye is horrible, you can reforge it with glowing ingots at the forge. For most good baubles, you reforge it with glowing ingots or with Spectral Silt, but the lesser ones will use cheaper materials to reforge. The undying quality is best for baubles in terms of defense, and the punishing quality is the best for baubles in terms of offense. Now, with baubles there is a secondary stat that is usually applied on the bottom of the bauble. To reapply this for a different effect, you will use the other reforging station. That is made with a crafting table, anvil, and a bucket of lava. This time the only thing the reforging costs is levels/experience, not materials. The best stats to apply on the baubles really depends on your preference, and they are all positive effects or non-existent, but I tend to lean towards extra hearts for flexing or straight up attack damage. Lastly, I'm going to dish out some very useful enchantment knowledge. For anyone wondering about how to get a lot of enchantments on your gear, the method I use is a standard method of placing the expensive enchantments on first. On your weapon, for example, you would want to ideally put something like Swifter Slashes 5 on your weapon first, since this is such an expensive enchantment to add. And then you add more expensive enchantments such as Advanced Looting, Ancient Sword Mastery, or Advanced Sharpness 5. Then you should add on cheaper enchantments like Lifesteal, Unbreaking, and Mending. When the cheap enchantments like Unbreaking cost like 35 plus levels, put on the last enchantment, and then apply the enchantment upgraded potentials. This enchantment is very rare from the enchantment table on books, but if you're lucky and keep trying, librarian villagers sometimes will sell the book, or you can find it in their libraries all around the world. This enchantment always costs 10 levels, no matter how many enchantments are on the item, but it can only be applied once per item. This enchantment resets the enchantment cost back to 0, so you can enchant your item a second time, in other words, while still keeping all of the previous enchantments. The enchantment upgraded potentials can be applied on armor as well. If you get a librarian with it, then you are truly able to become overpowered to the point of no return, and you will look at minions and mounts as peasants' tools. They're still really cool though, especially Rykos. With that, I'm going to wrap up. In conclusion, even though the video had a decent amount of information, I still didn't explain a few things that I could have, such as how to better control your temperature using a bucket of lava or water/Aussie lining, how to use the grappling hook to move faster, or to utilize fishing in the game for easy items and enchantment books. But that is because I have not utilized those aspects of the game besides maybe the Aussie lining. The video was getting very long already as well. In the end though, I really hope you enjoyed watching. I'm sorry I don't upload more. I'm a lazy streamer whose passion right now is the live life. That could change in the future though. If you want to catch me live, I stream on DLive almost every day, and I may start streaming to YouTube as well. The link to my DLive stream is in the description. Have a wonderful day guys. Thank you so much for the 1.4k subscribers on YouTube and the 9.4k followers on DLive. You guys are too good to me. Stay safe and strong everyone. Take care of yourselves and those around you. You're worth it. Good luck on your adventures guys. Bye-bye.